Hey everyone, today's question. Can an employer dismiss an employee for failing to abide by its COVID-19 policies and safety procedures? Look, straight off the bat, I'm going to tell you that every employer has to provide and maintain, as far as reasonably practicable, a working environment that is safe and without risks for all its staff, as well as any individuals entering its facility, as per Section 14 of the Occupational Health and Safety Act and any associated regulations. If risks do exist, an employer must take any and all reasonable steps to mitigate the risk. COVID or not, these rules have always been present and are nothing new. Now these not so new rules have received more special attention because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Employers have to curb the spread of the COVID-19 virus in the workplace, but that can also not be done without the cooperation of its staff. The mandatory use of personal protective equipment or PPE, both in the workplace and in the public, has been identified as a key measure to fulfill this duty. Now, in the context of PPE, covering one's nose and mouth with a mask is a requirement when entering the workplace or any public place. So, with this in mind, there is a distinction between the sanctions imposed on an employee who fails to adhere to such a rule and an employee's COVID-19 infection status at the time of committing the offense. If an employee is knowingly positive with the virus and still fails to abide by the consolidated direction and requirements of the alert level regulations, then such a transgression could warrant dismissal. It is one thing to have all the health and safety measures in place and on paper. These are, however, meaningless if no one takes them seriously. If an employee pulls his or her face mask below the chin while speaking to a person on the phone, would that justify dismissal? Well, pulling one's mask down to talk would defeat the whole purpose of wearing the mask in the first place. Now, the person on the other end of the phone call is relatively safe, but the people who aren't safe are those in the same vicinity as the person making the call with his or her mask down. This action is a risk. However, progressive discipline can be applied in order to educate the staff member as well as other staff that this behavior will not be tolerated and is in fact a transgression. So what happens when an employee continues to remove his or her mask in the workplace and progressive discipline has already been applied? An employee may be dismissed based on the merits of the case. The price that has to be paid for failure to adhere to these rules is far too great, as others may still get infected as a result of him or her failing to wear his or her mask, and the result could potentially cause fatalities. What if you don't present with any symptoms and attend work whilst waiting for the outcome of your COVID test results? An employee can still test positive whilst having mild to none in terms of symptoms. Therefore, an employee can still infect the workplace while being in the area and subsequently putting everyone else's lives at risk. This is dismissible, especially if those results turn out to be positive, because the law is clear: isolation occurs away from the workplace. Employees can be dismissed for non-adherence to rules and regulations, but there is a fine line to justify dismissal. An important thing to highlight is that everything related to COVID has been unprecedented, and to that end, it's important to educate staff accordingly with regards to the rules and regulations. What appears logical to you and I may not seem so logical to others around us. Also note that in terms of discipline, rules regarding physical appearance need to be relaxed, and virtual consultations or hearings should be considered when dealing with staff who have tested positive and transgressed rules as mentioned previously. More than ever, the efforts need to be of a collective nature in order to curb the spread of the virus, but also to protect the workplace so that staff do not take the virus back home to their families. In the wise words of Jerry Springer, take care of yourself and each other. That's all that I have for you today. Until next week, ciao for now.